UCLA misses a grand opportunity to take down number 4 Texas in Las Vegas.
You are Locked On UCLA, your daily podcast on the UCLA Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to this edition of the Locked On UCLA podcast. I'm your host, Zach Anderson-Yoxsimer. Thanks for making this show your first listen each and every day. It's free wherever you get your podcast, and it's available on YouTube. Like, comment, subscribe, download. Thanks for your support. Welcome back. Your day as you're tuning into the number one sports podcast network. Locked On UCLA is a part of it. This episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. What we're talking about today, what does UCLA need to do to beat USC in their crosstown rivalry, the battle for the victory bell this Saturday? Then you have UCLA men's basketball. A little shaky right now. What needs to change to pick up the energy level for Mick Cronin's bunch? But we're leading off with this. UCLA women's hoops coming off a big-time matchup against Texas. Losing this one cost them a chance to potentially play number 2 South Carolina and solidify themselves as a true national contender and maybe a number one seed overall. But for UCLA, this was a tale of two halves. The Bruins in the first half were down 20, getting outplayed, gave up 45 first half points, struggling just to get 30 points in this game if you combine the first halves and the first part of the third quarter. And then all of a sudden, UCLA crept back in this. So this is what my emotions were telling me through this game. This could have been one of the worst 4-day stretches we've seen in UCLA basketball, or not UCLA, in UCLA athletics, right? You have the football team that has been embarrassed by Washington at the Rose Bowl. Nico got hurt, and it was potentially the last game ever at the Rose Bowl. You had men's basketball, who just got embarrassed the other night by Cal. Donovan Dent left the game hurt, and the Bruins are already dealing with some injuries with Tyler Bilodeau. Then in this game, you have UCLA, who is already down 2 big-time players off their bench, Sienna Betts, and the likes of Tamia Gardner. Then you bring in Lauren Betts, UCLA, not even getting her the ball. She goes down injured, and the Bruins are down like 20 points. You're like, how could this get any worse? You're talking about the high-profile athletes on campus right now for UCLA. Outside of maybe Jordan Childs and Rock Chalowski, and you probably mix in there Megan Grant, who's currently on the basketball team, a UCLA softball superstar. 3 of the biggest athletes on campus, almost in a 4-day span, all went down with injuries in horrible losses. Well, luckily for UCLA's case, Lauren Betts did come back, but her mark on this game wasn't truly felt. If you're looking at players who impacted this game, Lauren Betts might have been 4th or 5th in terms of actual production in this game. She played 37 minutes, so even with her leaving the floor injured, going back to the locker room and coming back out, Lauren Betts still played 37 minutes in this game. So what truly went wrong? Well, this felt eerily reminiscent of the Final Four loss to UCLA to UConn. When UConn just boat raced them, UConn, despite being a little bit smaller, used a very athletic lineup, forced the Bruins into turnovers. UCLA couldn't really turn things around and get back in this game. Well, now that they play Texas, the Longhorns forced 20 UCLA turnovers. 20, leading to 18 points off turnovers. The Bruins only forced 10 to 13 points off turnovers. So UCLA was truly struggling in this one to get shots off. And the thing that kind of pointed out how this game would go, you look at the first quarter, go rewatch the first 10 minutes. For the first 10 minutes, I think UCLA only got Lauren Betts maybe 1 or 2 paint touches. She was touching the ball, but her first touch of the game was outside the paint at the elbow, at the 3-point line in the corner. And I was like, that's a little odd that Lauren Betts is getting the touches that far outside the paint. Now, the Longhorns are very aggressive. Vic Schaefer's defense was legitimate, led by Rory Harmon. You had the Cunninghams of the world, the Sid Barrys, who are all making little contributions for this Texas team that made life so difficult for UCLA. Even Charlize Ledger-Walker, who's supposed to be the calming force in this game, had to sit out some time with foul trouble, had 6 turnovers to lead UCLA. But after that, every single UCLA player had at least 2 turnovers. So the entire Texas defense was harassing UCLA top to bottom. It wasn't like it was an individual effort, although Ledger Walker did get charged with quite a few pretty terrible turnovers, giving up the ball late, early in the middle of the game. UCLA top to bottom was very sloppy offensively. They couldn't get Lauren Betts the ball, and they finally did late, but this is Betts' numbers. 8 points on 8 shots. Lauren Betts in a 6-player rotation in this game only had 8 shots. Rice had 12, Ledger Walker had 10, Neepkins had 11. Angela Dugalich almost took more shots than her coming off the bench. Now, Betts did have 7 rebounds, but it wasn't like her footwork was all the way there, that there was a time when Texas was driving to the hoop, and Betts was literally wrapping her arms around the Longhorn player instead of keeping her hands straight up and forcing the miss. UCLA got down as many as 23 points in this game when there was, about 2 minutes left in this third quarter. And then all of a sudden the Bruins turned it on to outscore the Longhorns, get within about 15, got this game to within a 4-point stretch where Neepkins had an open 3. If she makes it, the Bruins go down by 1. I think UCLA wins this game. The Bruins miss it. Rory Harmon does her late end of clock magic, hits another buzzer-beating jumper, hits about 2 of those in the final couple of possessions, knocks down all her free throws, and was outstanding. In a game full of stars, you looked at Madison Booker, you looked at Betts, you looked at Neepkins. It was Rory Harmon who was outstanding. 5 assists, 3 rebounds, at least 4 to 5 fouls drawn. I believe a steal in this game, playing all 40 minutes for a Texas team that was equally shorthanded. For as much as Sienna Betts is hurt, and Tamia Gardner, who would have made an impact in this game, UCLA played 6 players. That's how little faith Corey Closan has in her bench right now. Texas only played 7 players and had to truly fight hard to hold on to the lead late. So I wonder if South Carolina dominates Duke in a back-to-back, they might have gotten the better of whoever won this game, whether it's UCLA or Texas, because their rotation isn't going to be as limited and as pressed hard as Texas's lineup was in this one. And the Bruins had 6 players all play 30 or more minutes. Now that's tough to do when you have 6 players play 40 or more minutes. You had 2 who were in foul trouble. It was Ledger Walker early. Kiki Rice eventually picked up 4 in 34 minutes. And then Gabriela Jaquez was playing, I think, with 4 fouls for the entire fourth quarter. Now, the game wasn't dictated by foul calls. There were times UCLA kept having offensive fouls called against them. And you're like, it looked like it because they're just trying to swat Harmon away from them. Now, the heart of a potential champion showed for UCLA in this game that they came back and fought themselves into a puncher's chance. A champion would win this game or will learn from this and win later. It's not like UConn last year was a world-beating team throughout the entire season. They were good, they were solid, they suffered their losses early, got healthy, and went red hot late and dominated everybody in March and April. UCLA had 6 players play in this game. Think about that. When a top 3 team in the country is playing a top 4 team in the country who has 7 players to utilize, so the rest of those helping 6 players, those extra options are a little more rested, UCLA was going back to the well as Neepkins brought it, started making some threes. She was shooting it pretty well. Kiki Rice got to the cup a couple of times, and even Dugalich off the bench was able to bring some things that didn't show up in the stat sheet, getting a couple steals, some physicality. But top to bottom, UCLA, I think, needed that extra post presence with Sienna Betts. Texas, who for a large part of this game was making a good number of their shots, whether it was Harmon or in the first half Booker, they would also get the offensive rebound. UCLA out-rebounded Texas in this game, yet the Longhorns were able to maintain their presence in the post, keeping UCLA away from Lauren Betts with the possession. They were able to share the basketball, 16 assists on 27 made shots, and 12 to 9 on the offensive rebounds. Now, when you're thinking UCLA has the size advantage, this is another team we've seen in this calendar year that has taken UCLA to school in turnovers, in efficiency, taking care of the basketball, and still owning the paint while having a size mismatch with Lauren Betts in the post. Now, with UCLA's other premier center, 5 or maybe a power forward if the Bruins ever go with the Twin Towers of the Betts duo, then we'll see what that looks like. But right now, Texas showcased a blueprint for how to stop UCLA from getting the ball to Betts. Now, what UCLA has this year, much more than last year, is they have other options. Ledger Walker was turning it over, but she hit a three, hit some nice shots, and was able to calm the storm. Kiki Rice didn't have to take it all over by herself, so she went on a mini 6-0 spurt in that fourth quarter. Neepkins hit some big-time threes. The problem was there was no Gardner to go to kick out for that open three. Jaquez wasn't hitting it. Dugalich wasn't hitting it. Kiki Rice didn't hit her only attempts. So there wasn't enough three-point shooters where I thought UCLA has enough downtown players who can hit it from downtown to get themselves back in this game, but only one of them was hitting it, and that's Neepkins. And that's why the Bruins went out and did their best to bring Gianna Neepkins, the former Utah Ute, to UCLA. But I think for UCLA to win a championship this year, they're going to need complete health and a complete bench. They can't be running with 6 players against the top 4 team in the country. Texas only ran with 7. So it just sucks that UCLA is most likely, as of this recording, going to play Duke. South Carolina and Duke still play next. It's just, I would love to see UCLA win this game, but if they had come back and done so, I don't think they would have had anything in the tank to play South Carolina. I really don't, with how much effort it took to get back in this. But credit to Texas, they made UCLA look foolish at times, sluggish at times, discombobulated, any adjective, any adverb you want to throw in there, that UCLA looked pretty bad. Well, nobody's taken it to UCLA like they have. But the Bruins brought and punched back. Madison Booker, who was making every jumper in the first half, it felt like, didn't make a single field goal in the second half. The Bruins crept to within 4 points and an open three at getting back in the game, didn't make a field goal over the last 4.5 minutes. Texas didn't make a field goal over the last 3 minutes. So imagine watching this game. It was just a free throw shooting competition. UCLA made their free throws, Texas made their free throws, and the Bruins didn't force enough mistakes from the Longhorns to overcome a massive 23-point deficit with just a couple of minutes to go in the third, leading into the fourth. It was a great fight by this UCLA squad, but not enough to showcase that they are the top 2, top 3, top team in the country. Now, if Texas goes out and beats South Carolina or wins this Players Era Festival tournament on the women's side, you have to give them some first place votes because they came in also shorthanded and were ready to rock and roll. I didn't think UCLA would come out flat like this, but unfortunately, we almost saw the UConn game twice. We saw it 1.5 times before UCLA woke up and fought back at it. But now a couple of times early in the season, UCLA hasn't had a dominant Lauren Betts in 2025 to 2026. Bruins need to wake her up and hopefully get a lot healthy so they can spread the floor a little bit more with Gardner in the corner for 3. And I'd love to see what Sienna Betts can bring to the table when she's healthy and just take any other additional pressure in the post and help with the rebounding. Because the Bruins, despite out-rebounding Longhorns, it felt like they're getting beat to every 50-50 ball, every loose ball. Texas was on top of it, winning it, deflecting it. Everything that Mick Cronin preaches on the men's side was what Texas was getting from Vic Schaefer and his coaching and his entire program in this game against UCLA. They came ready to play for an 11 a.m. tip. And I wonder if that had anything to do with it, but Texas was ready to go right away. Speaking of not ready to go, the UCLA men are all out of sorts right now. Who needs to step up? We'll talk about it now a day after the Cal loss next on Locked On UCLA. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. And even if you missed the start of the game or you want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who'll score next to those fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. Keeps every game more exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Hey, maybe you want to go in and see what UCLA's got on the women's side when they're playing their next opponent in the Players Era tournament. Or you're looking at what UCLA could be going against when it's UCLA-USC. If you want to check that out, if you're a new customer, FanDuel is giving $300 in bonus bets when you place and win your first $5 bet. Head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Cruising on here in Locked On UCLA, we're talking UCLA men's hoops. Disastrous start. The Bruins haven't beaten any power conference opponents. Mick Cronin has already been quoted as saying he wants to fire himself. He's questioned his team's toughness, says they need leadership. And despite all that, UCLA has gone to neutral sites twice, one pretty close to the Intuit Dome, the other one up north to the Chase Center, home of the Warriors, and suffered 2 losses to a Cal team who UCLA was up 8-0 early, and then an 8-point lead late to Arizona, who is now the number 2 team in the country, and the Bruins couldn't close it out or have enough effort, enough toughness, whatever it took. The Bruins do not have it at this moment. Now, one of those, Tyler Bilodeau, was hurt. The other one, Donovan Dent, has clearly been hampered by something. Who's going to step up? Who is going to be that leader? Because UCLA, I think, is going to need a lot more than Donovan Dent in the near future. But overall for this season, they're going to need more and from a healthy Donovan Dent. Because Dent hasn't been getting to the line, hasn't been making his free throws, hasn't been able to score at will. Because there's a lot of athleticism, if you see from Dent floating through the lane, getting jump shots, they're just not falling down or getting to the cup. Something is clearly up there from UCLA, and whether they need a vocal leadership from Dent during the games or on the sideline at the moment, they are going to need the maximum Donovan Dent that they can get for the entirety of this season and not just in the near future. So for this near future, I think UCLA's got to lean on the one guy who's been consistently praised by Mick Cronin, who's brought the effort, who in big games last year had the big game winners, had the big games against Oregon, the game winner against Michigan State. That's got to be Eric Dailey Jr. So if you're looking to a UCLA starter on this current team, it's got to be EDJ. Now, Booker has showcased some good minutes, some good numbers from the transfer portal, and you've seen some effort from Jamar Brown, but the guy who combines all of that, who has the physicality and still has another year of eligibility with UCLA, the Bruins have to lean on EDJ. If he can get red hot, the Bruins last year when EDJ could score 10 or more were a pretty lethal team. Very strong and tough to beat. Now, it's a little different that Dailey Jr. has moved from the 4 to the 3, which is a little more traditional for him. They need EDJ to be the vocal guy in the locker room, to be the leader with his actions on the court. And most importantly, he's got to be the statistical leader game in and game out, with Bilodeau out and Dent clearly not 100%. That offense, it doesn't necessarily need to run through Eric Dailey Jr., but his 10 points per game has to increase to a 15. Those rebounds got to be at 7 to 8 to 9 every game. That's asking a lot from somebody as the 3, but EDJ is the guy UCLA has to utilize out of the starting lineup. Now, the next leap forward, there's going to be a lot of pressure on Trent Perry moving forward. A lot of pressure. And he showcased in an almost takeover moment when UCLA played Cal, about almost 3 straight possessions where he got to the cup, got fouled, was taking it strong. Can he be strong enough defensively for Cronin to trust him down the stretch in games where UCLA does not have that dominant guard defensively? In recent years, UCLA had both. They had the Kobe Johnson, the transfer, who for his lone senior season could knock down some threes, get red hot, and be dominant defensively. Then you had Skyy Clark, who became a better than 30% three-point shooter, about a 10-point per game scorer, but was also the best defensive player on the floor. And when UCLA didn't have any of that, they used to have a post presence, whether it was a Dem Bona for 2 years or a Daimata for a year and a half at UCLA to clean things up in the post. The Bruins haven't figured that out. Booker is still learning, still growing. So they need Trent Perry to be something like that as a defensive presence in the backcourt. Because if he can't bring it, UCLA, who has decent offensive wings, haven't showcased the defensive ability to clamp down against guards who are knocking down threes, getting past them, getting to the cup, and getting easy buckets. That's the toughness and the wherewithal Mick Cronin is asking for. So in terms of who might get a lot more minutes, you're looking for Trent Perry. Then you shift the focus to Skyy Clark. A little bit in foul trouble. We saw this when UCLA lost to Tennessee. When Skyy Clark was in foul trouble and the guards couldn't get things done, the ball wasn't getting to the post, then UCLA couldn't score. Clark came off the bench and hit some threes. That's not what Clark did coming off the bench in foul trouble versus Cal. UCLA needs Clark to command the ball, get to the cup. Saw a couple of times in recent games that he was going straight to easy layups, beating his man one-on-one off the dribble. So Clark might be that guy that the matchups have to exploit, whether it's off the dribble 1v1, whether it's that open 3. UCLA's got to find some ways to get Clark red hot from downtown because he's had takeover moments. When he played for Louisville, albeit a bad Louisville team, but a few years ago when they beat an NC State team that made it to the Final Four in the midst of their big-time run, Clark was putting up almost 30 points for that bad Louisville team. Now, I'm not saying he has to go put up 30, but the guys UCLA needs to step up. Overall, EDJ's got to be the man. Trent Perry is the next in line to take over if You're missing Donovan Dent, whether it's a focus point or clearly he's hampered by an injury. And then you need Skyy Clark, who is the running mate with Donovan Dent in the backcourt, needs to take over the load of the veteran leadership. He's been there a year plus now, and he needs to start knocking down some shots. And I know he's been through a lot. Cronin's talked about how much Clark has gone through off the floor. But somebody on this team has to step up. Bilodeau is not on the floor. Dent is clearly not 100%. I'm not sure if we're going to trust Booker to come in as an incoming transfer to lead the charge. Jamar Brown seems like a quiet leader. He's just coming in. Brandon Williams has been off the court for an extra year. Who's going to be the vocal leader? Well, you look at those guys who have been there for close to 2 years, a year and a half now, and have gotten some major minutes, whether it's now, previous time, or have already showcased some brief flashes of good. Not great, but good. Those are the three guys. That's to be the three-headed monster that can unlock better from Booker. Keep the energy from Jamerson going. Keep this UCLA team, which apparently does not have a deep bench this year, going in the right direction when they play the next big name opponent, whether it's Big Ten play, whether it's ASU or Gonzaga, which is coming up in just 3 weeks' time, against a potentially top 10 Zags team when UCLA goes up to Seattle to take on Gonzaga. So you need those three guys to step up. And if they are stepping up and UCLA is still losing games, Mick Cronin has got to figure it out because that clock might be starting to tick. That seat might go from lukewarm to a little warmer. Now, I think the Bruins, when they get a healthier Dent, when they get a healthy Tyler Bilodeau, should be a little more entertaining to watch and can figure it out. But when they do get healthy, and if they're still struggling, then there's going to be a lot of question marks about this team because there is a lot of hype, myself placed on this too. But it's clearly not working, and they were just as good last year with a large returning portion of last year's team. It's really mind-boggling right now. Next, we'll transition to the gridiron and talk about UCLA. Do we think Nico's going to play, and what UCLA can do to beat USC in the Coliseum on Saturday? College football's back, college basketball's back, it's all back, and I couldn't be more excited. The tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands, there's nothing like it, but let's be real. Actually getting those tickets can feel more like a battle and a hassle than the game itself. The endless queues, the hidden fees, the prices, they just jump at checkout. You're like, dude, what's going on? Well, that's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to you, back to me, the fan. The easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. Maybe you're thinking about making a trip across town. You want to go see UCLA-USC. Well, go to Game Time, get those tickets. Maybe you want to see a big-time matchup UCLA, whether in Seattle or when they're hosting Arizona State later this year or in the Big Ten coming up. UCLA men's basketball, go get those tickets on Game Time and get those good, solid deals for the Bruins either in Pauley Pavilion or to go root them against the rivals in USC. The app's super simple, and you can see your exact view from your seat before you buy, so there's no hesitation. Take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, the promo code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, Locked On College, for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. All right, this is rivalry week. Some might say a little bit of hate week, but it's UCLA-USC. Now, USC isn't really playing for anything after they lost to Oregon. They're not making to the college football playoff. They're not playing for a Big Ten championship game berth. They're not playing for even a big bowl game. But UCLA can still ruffle some feathers across town with a win and still in a lost season, in a dreadful season, still have gotten one of the bigger upsets in college football history, knocking off a then top 10 Penn State team, getting James Franklin fired, basically. And then if you go through the rest of that and you still find a way to get that victory bell painted blue by the time this season's done, well, I think that'd be a huge win. Mind you, Tim Skipper earlier this week, who's been showcasing the team, the videos, the hype videos, the intensity of this rivalry that is separated by not too many miles from the campuses of UCLA to USC. The Bruins are currently on a mini streak winning at the Coliseum, and let's make it another here in 2025. I remember it was only a couple years ago when the Bruins ruined Caleb Williams' birthday. And the Bruins knocked him out, were out physical, out muscling a USC team that I would love to come out here and say they're overrated and get all these USC fans frustrated, flustered, ticked off at me. But the Bruins have to prove it and earn it UCLA at times hasn't had it from start to finish in these games, whether it's been a mental error by a player, whether it's been a questionable call from the coaching staff. Lately, obviously, it's been Tim Skipper, or just the inability to stick through the game plan for a full 4 quarters. Now, UCLA's obviously played number 1 and number 2, Ohio State and Indiana on the road, and the Bruins had the results play out accordingly. What was the embarrassing parts was when UCLA has played those edge of top 20 teams, top 25 teams like the Washingtons, the Utahs of the world, both games at home, and have been blown out off their home field. The Bruins have to wipe away all of this and find a way to get energized against USC. That sounds like a stupid thing to say. UCLA has to find a way to get energized, but they do. You're facing a USC team that's got nothing to play for. All UCLA has to do is embarrass USC, and you're going to see this whole offseason. You're going to go watch Mark Colkin of Locked On USC. You're going to hear everything from USC football of Lincoln Riley finding a way out of that job and how they overspent for Clay Helton 2.0. And you know what UCLA was able to do against Clay Helton? Get some wins in the UCLA-USC rivalry, even in a year where the Bruins weren't that good. Think back to 2018, which is when UCLA was at their worst in recent years and still pulled off a win against a USC team at the time was vying for a bowl berth. UCLA said, no. We are physical, ran the ball at Josh Kelly, and found a way into the end zone and put up 30-plus points. In this game, UCLA has to be physical. They're going to need to run the ball and get the ball into the end zone for 30-plus points. They can't be flipping the ball over their holder's head to the kicker for a 4th and 15 fake field goal attempt. Now, I'm glad that UCLA burned that play, get it out of our system. Let's not do something that dumb, that stupid, that ineffective against USC, because I'd rather have Washington fans laughing at us than USC fans laughing at us with that play call. So I'm glad they got that out. You know Tim Skipper is going to have some plays up his sleeve. You know Jerry Neuheisel is going to do a direct snap or two to the running back. What are the trick plays that might make an impact in this game that won't hurt UCLA in the long run over the 4 quarters? Can UCLA's trick plays, whether it's an onside, whether it's a fake punt, maybe it's a double pass. We saw New Mexico try to utilize one of those against UCLA in week 3, week 4 against the Bruins? That's what UCLA needs to get into this game, a successful trick play. I would be stunned if Tim Skipper and this coaching staff doesn't implement 1 or 2 throughout this game. I'd be stunned if the Bruins don't do that against USC. Just kind of leave the fake field goal attempts off to the side, unless you're guaranteed it's going to work. We've seen when it goes good, when UCLA played Penn State, you get on the board early, you get the onside kick, you read it in the film, because this is a USC team that's also used a fake punter in Sam Heward to throw for a first down against Northwestern. So you know they're going to be skimming through the rule book to do something shady, to do something weird, to do something stupid, just to be like, we're close this year. That's what USC is. Well, UCLA isn't as close as a program right now, but they can still humble their brethren who thinks they're higher than they're not in USC. So the Bruins have to get a trick play to go their way. 2, I've been reading from various reports, whether it's the Bruin Blitz of Tracy McDonald or Brent Bolch's reports of the LA Times, that Nico wasn't really a factor at practice. All right, Nico did leave that UCLA game early against Washington. I believe it was reported as neck spasms. And then that's a couple of weeks after missing the Ohio State game with a concussion, neck spasms after getting belted to the ground again and again and again. UCLA's offense did have some life. So even if Luke Duncan is playing this game, I still have some belief UCLA can win this game against USC. I still do, even if it is Luke Duncan. But the Bruins have to assert some physicality against Danton Lynn's defense. Yeah, let's go run over that USC defense against our former defensive coordinator and get him run out of town with his head coach. Can the Bruins find a way with their 3 four-headed monster in the backfield, whether it is a Nico or a Luke Duncan, and move the line of scrimmage and run the ball? I think they can do so. Maybe not to the tune of 200 yards, but the Bruins can get some chunk yardage, 3rd and manageable, 2nd and manageable for Luke Duncan. I think he can push the ball vertical more so than Nico in terms of accuracy, and more so than the coaching staff and Jerry Neuheisel has been willing to do in the last couple of weeks when Duncan came in mop-up duty against Washington and over the course of 4 quarters against Ohio State in Columbus. It's a different atmosphere. This one means more, and you can ruin a coaching staff and you can ruin the USC program so much more by beating them. Not going to earn any starting jobs, not going to earn anybody some extensions of the coaching positions for UCLA right now. But you go beat USC, then you'll just say, thank you, Tim Skipper. Job well done. He didn't earn the full-time job, but he kept UCLA afloat and made them have some of the bigger moments if they can pull this one off against USC. Physical, push the ball vertical, even if it is Duncan, and then make sure that trick play actually works and doesn't get returned for a touchdown. Until next time, we're going to talk more UCLA women's hoops, men's basketball, football, everything here on this podcast. So like, comment, subscribe, download. Thanks for your support. Hands up, Bruins fans. 8 clap time, baby. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. UCLA. UCLA, fight, fight, fight. This has been Locked On UCLA. Zach signing off. Like, comment, subscribe, download. Go Bruins.